And recording was already in progress because I have a digital note taker on this too. God, I love technology. Good evening, everybody. This is Alderman Lee at the 11th Ward. It is about 5:35 on Thursday, the 23rd of January. We're here to talk about proposed map amendment to zoning for Halsted Street. Basically, between 3508 South Halsted and 3728 and 3601 to 3707 South Halsted. The proposal is to change all of the zoning to conform to a B3-2 shopping district. I'm going to ask if you guys have questions. For those of you that are on the Zoom, you can pop them in the chat. We're pretty informal here. If people have questions as we go along, please go ahead and just raise your hand in the room, or go ahead and just pop it in the chat, or just go ahead and interrupt me at this point. I've got here with me Zoe Chan, who's my chief of staff. If we can just go around the room real quick, if you can just introduce yourself and kind of where you are in relation to the zoning changes that are being proposed, that'd be great. Why don't we start with the people on the dialed in on the Zoom first? Eric, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. So my name is Eric Pacheco. I live on 33rd and Union. So a little bit north and I would say east to the proposed zoning changes. So yeah, just curious about that.
Eric comes to a lot of our zoning meetings, so thank you for being here on Zoom. Okay, and then how about Amanda?
Hi, I'm Amanda Andrews. I'm a resident over on 38th between Halsted and Lithuanica. And
Great.
Similar to Eric, just curious kind of what the plans are and if it's going to make sense for our neighborhood.
Great, thanks for being here. Tyler?
Tyler Nevis, Remova Theater at 35th and Halsted roughly, and then also live 34th in between Morgan and Lithuanica.
I'm Emily Nevis. I'm also the co-owner of Remova and also live at 921 West 34th.
Be weird if you didn't, right?
Serious.
Yeah.
Kevin Sheehan, 3707 Halsted, the building lots 3703.
Okay.
501.
Great, thanks for being here.
Jim Molnar at 3524 South Halsted. We're right next to the Remova. And we own and occupy the building.
Great.
I live with Jim. Yeah, my name is Kuna. Yeah, right next to Remova Theater.
MN Gallery is on.
Okay, great. It's nice to finally meet you in person. I've heard about you through the Nevises here. Well, I'm all positive. I don't want you to think it's bad. Like I don't. Mostly because I'm always concerned about neighbors who are that close to the Remova and just making sure that, you guys are staying in good communication. Yeah, absolutely.
Sean Orridge, I live at 819 37th Street. So I'm right behind Shelley.
Mm-hmm. On the other side of the alley.
Yeah. So I would be probably the most affected by what's going to happen on the property.
Gotcha. All right. So I don't have a super formal presentation. This is really meant to be more of like a Q&A. We put together like an FAQ for everybody. What I've been doing over the course of the last couple of years is looking in and around the ward for opportunities to bring conformity to different places in the ward, conformity from a zoning perspective. So one of the first groups of people that came in to see me were the property owners across the street from the Remova, actually. I don't know which one of my predecessors did it, but they downzoned all of those buildings, many of those buildings, not all of them, but many of those buildings to RS3, which if you're familiar with the parlance at all, that means single family residential up to 3 stories, which none of those obviously are. And that became very problematic for the property owners. Many of them were already running businesses, so it was okay. Like if you had a beauty salon, it was fine that you continue to do that. There's a hair salon, a nail salon, and some other businesses over there. But if they wanted to sell their properties, they weren't going to be able to get, whoever buys it was going to buy it as a single family home. And if they were going to do some other sort of business, they wouldn't be able to get proper permits. They came in asking for C zoning, which is what it was originally, which I was unwilling to do. C zoning at any level allows for liquor and cannabis as of right. And that was something that I like for people to come and talk to me about those things first. So while I wasn't here for the down zoning previously, I understand how that tool was used to really sort of control what was coming into the neighborhood. I don't know what the impetus was back then. I've heard different stories about, there was a time in Bridgeport and in the ward where there were a million taverns everywhere. So liquor moratoriums were put in, and lots of down zoning was happening. They were worried about, sorry, I'm gonna turn that off. They were worried about maybe more nail salons opening, that sort of stuff. So some of these controls were put in. By the time I got here, Remova was already in progress. And I didn't make changes right away. So, and I thought long and hard about what would be appropriate for that area, because we want to continue to see businesses grow. I know, I think the Remova's brought some new life along Halsted Street. We've seen more new businesses open up. And what we have is really a mix of zoning now. Initially, what I did was just right in front of the Remova, just that one side of the street. We made that B32 so that it would allow for some additional uses beyond single family residential, which if you have a home business, you can run a home business out of a single family residential. But I wanted to be able to be as fair as I could to the property owners without risking sort of more or putting the community more at risk of things that we don't necessarily want in the neighborhood. So obviously Sheehan's Bar was still there. That whole deal there, even with the zoning, what it was, if you purchase it or if there's a sale, the new owners can continue to operate it if it's within a certain amount of time. And all of that was in order. So actually, I had nothing to do with the electric funeral opening. I mean, all of that was just done between two private parties. I did lift the liquor moratorium, so we had to do that so that Remova could operate. That's actually going to be coming up. It's only open for 12 months. That's something we'll be closing down. We'll lock it down again, I think, after the 1 year, the 12-month mark, which will be in July, I think, coming up.
Right.
Yeah. So please know that I'm looking very closely. I'm not looking to create Wrigleyville South down here, but I think there's still opportunities. And down on this stretch, and let me just pull up this presentation here. I'm going to share my screen with the other people here in a minute. That's not it. Where did it go? Here we go. I don't have the presentation. Is it down below? No. Can I make you host? Sorry. I'm gonna make Zoe host so she can show you this zoning map here. So we have a mix of manufacturing, residential, and business, and commercial now because we have a C zone with Remova. And in speaking to and consulting with the zoning administrator at the city, we looked at what we could do to create some conformity, because I don't feel like there's much interest in having more manufacturing in this area. If we're going to have businesses, I think businesses that are like doctors' offices, coffee shops, be nice to. I don't know that we're ever going to have another Shallers, but another restaurant like that down here would be nice too. Would like to see those sorts of businesses potentially come into the area, and really wanted to make it possible for that to happen. Trying to move it over, but it's not letting me. I know it's a little hard to see. Yeah. So at the top here, where the pin is, that is the Remova Theater. I'm sorry, and we can send this out to everybody. But there is a big mix. So we have B32 is what I changed it to on the east side of Halsted at 35th Street. We have a mix of B1-1, We have an RT4, which is a multifamily residential. We also have manufacturing. We're in the middle of this here, where this is RT4 and this is M1-2. This is just south of 36th Street. So across the street from where we're at right now, where the meat company was on that corner. Now that's for sale, right? So,
Chipetti's are?
yes,
Okay.
I just forget the name, sorry.
I just learned
The
it.
red garage. Yeah, so we want to be able to create some more uniformity in terms of what's available. And I want to offer sort of the most options for businesses without liquor and cannabis being an option for any of that. And I'm happy for people if they are interested, like I will talk to them, we'll do a community meeting, we'll get everybody's feedback before anything like that ever happens. I would never do that without talking to the community first. But this allows us to create guardrails essentially. I don't particularly want every single person that wants to open a business to have to come in here, go through all of that, and then have the additional cost, honestly, of coming in for a zoning change when I can create these districts to create a community business district within this area. So, you know, some of the things on the Q&A, and actually, did you pop that in the chat already? Okay, so for those of you that are online, we put the Q&A in the chat. Meeting after this one is about downzoning in Chinatown, in case you're interested in staying, but the upzone really is to create more interest in business development. One of the things that we haven't started talking about yet, but I can share with you all, is that we're working with the Department of Planning and Development. You know, in the course of the almost 3 years that I've been in office now, I hear a lot from residents about how they want a walkable neighborhood. They'd like to see more stuff that they can just, you know, walk to, coffee shops, maybe like some more bigger brands. Wouldn't it be great to have a Trader Joe's nearby? But I haven't quite figured out what it would take to do that. So one of the things that I posed to the Department of Planning and Development is I really would like to know, from a marketing perspective, like what would make us more attractive to some of these brands? I'm not saying everybody, but if we wanted some of these things, like how much more, how many more rooftops do we have to have? And I think that we're a great community here. I'm not looking to add high rises everywhere, but there's still some vacant land around here that could be developed, whether that's townhomes or condos, just so that it makes it more attractive from a business investment perspective. I'm sure Tyler and Emily can speak to it as business owners, but it's not cheap to open a business, especially today's day and age. I hear from folks all the time, I wish we'd open like another Shallers. Can we get some of those? Why is there another noodle shop opening up? And it sort of speaks to the market, right? So, and for people to take the risk of investment, they really need to know that there's enough bodies in the community to support staying open. So I've asked DPD to undertake a study that they're going to be kicking off hopefully here in the next 3 or 4 months. Once they get going, we'll have a community meeting for that too. And anybody that's interested in that conversation, it really is looking at most of Bridgeport over to the river around the boathouse to see like in these areas. So along Halsted, along 35th Street, and then along Archer Avenue too. That's kind of what it encompasses in terms of like the business areas. What we have, what's missing, what we could use more of, and like what it would take. And then it'll produce some marketing materials essentially. Like how do I, as the alderman, go out and try to bring businesses in and the types of businesses that we want. So that's the community aspect of that. We'll definitely be engaging the community about what they'd like to see more of. Is it a multiplex for sports? I think that would probably be, I think we have enough demand for it. There's not enough gym space between the park districts locations that we have, and we're really blessed with a lot of parks. We're going to get a new one at Donovan Park here soon too. But I guarantee you that'll be all filled up very quickly as well. So this is part of a larger plan, if you will, where I'm looking to create the conformity where it makes sense, where I think it makes sense, and having this conversation with all of you to answer your questions about concerns that you have as neighbors, property owners. So I'm happy to open the floor to questions at this point. If anybody's got questions. Yeah, so I'm not in a rush to do this. Literally whenever it is, we settle all of the issues that people have. Like, let's say you don't want your property to be zoned in this, I would entertain not participating in it. Like your opinion matters to me. I'm not gonna try to hose you in this way. And like, if you want to do something with it later that is not within, if the B32 doesn't help you, I'm happy to allow you to opt out of it. You know, for me, especially for people who are already invested in this community, I'm not trying to make life more difficult. I'm actually trying to make it easier, and to make it so that, you know, doing that map amendment initially across the street from the Remova made a lot of sense. And it was ultimately more helpful to the individual property owners. They didn't have to come in and ask for a zoning change. Now, if they want to open a bar, they still have to come in and it's got to be a C zone, and then that's a whole other process. But the upzone that I did over there did allow them to market their properties a little bit differently, and they can, you know, have other businesses come in and not have to ask for a zoning change in order to get a permit or a business license to operate what they want to operate. So the timing of it all, to get back to your question, whenever it is we settle on exactly which addresses are going to be included, that gets introduced to city council. And then it's already been introduced to city council. We'll probably have to do an amendment if anything changes, but it has not been voted on yet. So it hasn't even been in committee. So whenever it is, we're ready to pull the trigger on it. Whenever the next zoning committee meeting is, that's when it'll get heard. And then the following city council meeting, which is typically within the same couple of weeks, then that will be when it gets approved. So let's call it a month, right? I wouldn't, and again, I pride myself in trying to be as transparent as possible and making sure that people have notice about stuff. So once this meeting is over today, again, I'll post the video so anybody that couldn't make it can watch it. If they have subsequent questions, I'm happy to take more questions and make sure. I want people to be comfortable with this. I'm never trying to pull a fast one on anybody around here.
So first off,
Yeah.
thank you for having this. You know, as a property owner, I'm glad that there's interactions with your ward. And I was lucky enough, well, I was in the last meeting when there was a proposal for this property.
Oh, for across the street.
Right,
Yeah.
with your previous
Mhm.
administration. And there were some plans that were put in front of us where everybody on the block said absolutely not, because they wanted to go up like 5 stories
Mhm.
and have apartments, right away parking. If you say there's 2 cars per unit, if there's 20 units, that's 40 cars. Where are you gonna put them? And then obviously apartments, there's no stake in the game, right? If you're a renter, sometimes you don't take ownership, there's no ownership of that property, so you treat it bad, you don't care about the neighborhood, whatever. So a couple of questions I have is, number one, with this, and remember we were talking about sprinklers and
Mhm.
I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to B1, B.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Yeah, so completely, I don't know. So the question is, how high will this proposal be? How high are they gonna go, or we don't know that yet?
So that's a great question. And I will get you a precise answer from zoning, but in general, B means business, M means manufacturing, C means commercial, R means residential. So
Okay.
that's what the letter designations are. You'll see on a zoning map that theirs is PD for a plan development, because that's a different type of development. The next number indicates the categories of eligible uses. So 3 in the business district is sort of the most business uses, offers the most options. And then the dash, and then the number after the dash indicates the bulk size. 5 is the biggest number you can go to. This is a 2. So low, but I will get an exact answer for, I don't have that off the top of my head unless Zoe can find it, what the -2 is. I don't believe that's more than 2 or 3 stories. Because
It's
we're,
usually 2, but it's just, it depends on the floor area ratio.
yeah, so floor area ratio, and we'll give you a quick
Yeah.
zoning lesson. We had to learn this. So it has to do with how many lots they're building on, right? So for something as wide as that was, if they were doing it all together, like let's just say it was one single lot, they couldn't go up more than like 2 stories.
Okay.
Okay, but if they have more floor area ratio, it might mean that they can go up higher. So what we need to do for your specific question, and I know this is what concerns you the most, is if they built on all, is it 5 or 7 lots across the street?
I don't know.
It's 7? Okay. So I will get an exact answer
Okay.
for you, so I can answer that question. And I hear you on the concern, because I remember, because you were one of the first people to
Yes,
call
I
me
came
about,
here to
yes,
talk to you, yeah.
you're like, I gotta make sure you know.
Yeah, yeah, and the biggest question I had at that time, and
Mhm.
still, is this still considered landmark? And is that gonna go anywhere? Because we were always told, at least at last meeting,
Mhm.
that they cannot do anything to the Shallers physical property because it's landmark status. Is that true? I mean,
I
is it,
actually don't know.
or was it
We'll,
changed?
we'll check the registry to see if it's been landmarked. You know, the owners of that property have not come to me at all with any formal plans. Yeah.
Okay,
And that current zoning, I think that's in the B, right? Across the street from, whatever it is they were gonna wanna do, it's not zoned for anything that's gonna be useful for them right now.
okay. Because the big question we had, and I remember the meeting
Mhm.
specifically, and, you know, everybody, mostly everybody on the block came, and even on.
Yeah,
the
further
block
down,
over,
yeah.
right? And everybody was concerned that there was gonna be this big looming tower
Yeah.
over all of our yards.
Mhm.
And I remember, you know, Aaron Bauer.
Mhm.
Block, and he's like, I'm worried if I'm on my pool and somebody's been looking at you, and the old administrator,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing in your pool? You know, it was a joke.
Yeah.
But that was a concern, and
Yeah.
it still is to this day, right?
Well, I'll tell you my general philosophy with all of the zoning changes that I've done here. I look for there to be generally conformity with what already exists. Now, that's not to say that there aren't places in the ward where it makes sense to go higher, where there's nothing else around it.
Okay.
You
that's
know,
fair.
look, the corner 35th and Halsted, when they built that condo building, right? I mean, like, that's a strong business corridor, and like going up higher made sense, but I wouldn't put anything here that went above however tall your houses are over there. And I don't think there's anything more than like 3 stories on your block. Yeah. So conformity is something I'm very concerned with. Like, I wouldn't, that wouldn't fit right there.
Okay.
So just know that that's not something that I would,
Be that, so really can't do.
yeah. Yeah.
So looking through.
Okay. Since before, I mean, like, you guys would know better than me, actually, so 10 years. When did Shallers close? Okay. Okay. And those lots, was there anything on those lots previously? It was their parking lot? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not,
I
there,
tried talking, they came over,
Mhm.
you know, the back gate's always open, there was a guy with a dog that looked like a horse for
Mm-hmm.
a while, right? And going after all the other dogs. And the back gate was always open, so they were trying to fix the lock,
Mhm.
and I went over there just to talk to the
Mhm.
workers, like, you know, you gotta make sure that this is secure.
secure,
They
absolutely.
secured the front one with a chain,
Mm-hmm.
right? The back one's still wide open,
Okay.
open, but the lots past that to the south.
On the other side.
Does the same guy own all of those?
That I'm not sure. We can find out. I,
Because if you look, it's like a forest.
Mhm.
And during the summer, you could sit on the deck and watch the rats come out like it's a parade. And, you know, there's dogs obviously walking in the alleys,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't pick up after their dogs.
Yeah.
But you can't solve that problem, but at least, you know, cut the grass.
I wish there was a way.
I agree.
I think Shallers did handle a lot.
Sure.
But on this side, they're good about trimming, like the weeds and stuff. I mean, they're better about it.
They're better.
They're better. They
Yeah.
haven't
I
always
cut
been.
the ones across the back of the alley, 'cause I couldn't
Okay.
see out. Me and my neighbor just went out there
Uh-huh.
tonight, and sawzall, and threw the branches in the yard because we couldn't see. That's how
You
big the
couldn't
weeds
s-
were getting.
Yeah.
But they're better at it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're bad neighbors, but they are getting better.
Yeah.
And it's just.
And let us know,
appreciate-
and we'll make sure that our ward soup stays on top of it. I mean, that's something that is problematic across the ward.
Anytime I communicate with them, it's through their real estate agent. They don't want to talk to the White Sox right now. They do everything through your agent. They're not in the neighborhood. So, I mean, I know there are a lot of concerns and absolutely, your girls go to school
Mhm.
here. But I think on the other side, you know, being a member of the Southside Chamber of Commerce, you know, Rudy Martinez, you know, George's, a lot of those businesses have been around for a long time. You know, the entrepreneurs and the business owners here are amazing. A lot of them have been here for generations. And I'd love to get more people to come into the community that want to join that aspect
You're
of
right.
what we
Yeah,
do.
I agree.
You know,
Yeah.
if you look 35th down to 39th, it's really cool what Lakeside's done. But between 35th and down there's not a lot going on. I'd say on Halsted or Morgan, you know, there's just a lot of
Yeah.
open space. So I personally appreciate how you're trying to go about this. You supported us, and I think you're also doing a great job listening to the community as far as how can we, expand that.
Mhm.
and those other businesses.
Was there ever any talk of having, maybe some townhomes or any?
I have, like, literally nobody's, I wouldn't have a problem with residential right across, because we have residential
Yeah.
down the street already, so, I personally wouldn't want to live facing Halsted myself, but clearly people do.
Yeah.
Because it's busy, and there's, I mean, and
You're right.
unless you have, unless you're on like one of the cross streets, there's nowhere for your friends to come and visit. Like,
Sure.
there's not gonna be parking
Yeah.
along Halsted. I mean, it's a narrow street already, so
But
where they were like facing in or something. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean,
Mhm. Actually, they could face each other, right? Yeah, you could, yeah. Yeah, I'm totally open to it. I mean, nobody's come to me to discuss it at all.
I
Yeah,
understand,
yeah. Yeah.
I'm not in business.
You watch the news.
Now's not the opportunity
Mhm.
to build residential. These guys have been sitting on this, they're paying taxes on it,
Yeah.
it's money. Who are they? Because I don't know who they are. The workers didn't tell me anything. Like this gentleman said, they're not from the neighborhood, so there's no interaction with anybody.
Last I knew, and I don't know if it's changed hands, the person or it might be an investment company. And I think they own a lot of properties in Chinatown too. Yeah, so they are invested in the ward. Yeah, I mean, I think the same owner owns or the same group of owners owns the furniture store across this kitty corner or across the street from the Chase. We actually had someone come in. I think they're going to come with a proposal for like a mini mart sort of place, like a higher end. They have a place in the South Loop, not far from Il Pulicino, right? It's around in the same building, but on the back side of it. So it's like a convenience store, supermarket. They'll sell sandwiches and stuff. I think they came and saw me. I don't know if they're going to come back in for real. We'll see.
Okay.
But I've at least had that kind of conversation because people are seeing the opportunities now. Remova's made a big difference in that. And like, we have continuing to grow the arts community here. And soon we got to talk about what's going to happen on 35th Street, with the Sox, their lease is coming up. I'm do everything that we can to keep them here on the south side, but that's definitely going to mean some changes down there. That has to happen, in order to make it, more, attractive to anybody that would want to invest here if it's
So
not
I
them.
think I heard you
Yeah.
say that. Some.
Mhm. It's zone B11 right now. So whatever they would want to do, if it was something bigger than one story, they would have to get a
So
zone
I'm saying
change.
if, so if you want to put cannabis, liquor in,
Mhm.
they gotta come back to you.
Yes.
And, obviously, if you allow that, it's gonna take away from their business. And I don't know the name of the place, the Ghost with the.
Oh,
Ghost and-
Electric funeral.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, to keep their business going, I don't think we should have any more liquor, especially near all these houses. I got a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And then, cannabis, you're not far from the school,
Mhm.
right? So I think, we want community development. I'd love to have a coffee shop. I'm a coffee guy.
Yeah.
I would walk next door. I still smell them cooking fried chicken in there. I know it's empty, but must be a ghost in there because every now and then you smell.
I was just down there.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, we understand.
Yeah.
But it's gotta be the right business.
Yep.
I appreciate your ward newsletter, where no more massage parlors, no more of that.
Yeah.
crap going on.
Well, I'm
Please.
trying every which way to not have those.
Yeah.
Anytime someone comes in, I'm just discouraging them. There's way too many and I don't have to tell you. I don't have to get into all of like the gory, like, I don't want our community, like the 11th ward or Chinatown, frankly, to have a reputation for that. And currently there's not the rules where, like, with nail salons, you can't have one within like 1,000 feet of another establishment like that, but that rule doesn't exist for massage parlors. I'm like, how is that even possible? So that's an issue that I'm very concerned with, because I'm concerned with all sides of that, not the least of which is the human trafficking that comes with.
Sure, sure.
That's
So
what next meeting is about.
yeah, so in Chinatown, I'm down zoning to prevent that
Good.
from happening. In whatever, I only have control over so much as an older person. Zoning is like one of the biggest things, the tools that I have. I take seriously when I'm down zoning something and the impact to the property owners, but I also have to think about the broader community at the end of the day. So when we figure out how high up with the biggest floor area ratio that could be, if it turns out that it can go higher than I want it to go, then I'll probably look to lower that so that something that big would have to still come through. I'm the down zone, or not, sorry, the conformity with the up zone and everything here is really about the existing buildings now that maybe have storefronts. And it's a B3 so that there can still be ground floor residential. So the owners still have the option to put apartments in on the ground floor if they wish to. Things are starting to pick up for sure. I mean, I think along Halsted on the north, just north of 35th Street, we got a lot of speculators. We got a lot of properties in building court right now. And people are like waiting for the right moment. And some of them paying high taxes and taking losses on this until they, your property's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it, right? I mean, and we're in a different kind of climate now. So I'm trying to do whatever we can to continue to encourage investment, even in these really difficult times. But I understand very specifically, especially with vacant land. And so we'll do the same consideration for these 3 lots that are just where am I sitting? That way from us. Because there's 3 lots that are empty across, that's part of the Chapettis. They own that property across the street.
Okay, yeah.
The 3 empty,
parking lot?
no, the 3 empty lots that are just right across the street from that.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to allay people's concerns about the height and everything. And again, my whole philosophy on this is, and because I've had people bring buildings down so that they're not too high. I would hate for something to be like, here it's a 6-story like walk up. And then everything else is like, 2 and 3 flats. Yeah, I'm
And
not
then
looking to
obviously
create
down the
a
line, one of my concerns, and I'm in the construction field,
Mhm.
you were a water guy, I'm a gas guy. You were heating, I know gas. So with any construction, there comes a potential for bad things to happen, right?
Mhm.
So whoever the builder is, they need to understand that, there's property owners that are gonna drive through that area.
Mhm.
So you're gonna get nails in your tire. You're gonna be, from what the previous, the last meeting we had here, and I don't know the history of it, but I guess that property used to be an old brewery. And it's concrete all the way down,
Oh, wow.
including my house and the one next to me, where they had a hard time digging up the foundations because how
Because of all the,
thick
oh,
the
wow.
concrete is. So with that comes
It's
some-
vibrations and everything. Yep.
Right, glass block windows are
Mhm.
gonna break, right? So we just need to make sure that whoever these builders are, whoever these owners are,
Mhm.
property development, whoever, they're gonna be responsible to the people that are closest. Myself and Dino behind me, we're gonna be most impacted,
Yep.
right? So
You
you just
got-
gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I 100% will. If there's going to be something big built here, do you believe that there will be meetings about that? And if there are, and so it won't be anything as big as, let's say, 39th and Ashland. Okay, so but we had meetings about that because they were tearing down a whole building, and there's a wine storage place that's actually like adjacent to that property. I mean, and vibrations were a big concern for them,
Sure.
right? So we don't want that disturbing or risking any damage to other people. And frankly, if they do, they're responsible for it. So that we will absolutely make that clear in every case. If there's something that big going on, how it impacts the neighbors, is very
Thank you.
important to
I mean,
us.
Sit down. Something full assessor required. So confident, better or for worse, there'll be a lot of engagement and opportunities.
See, but the thing is with you guys, and I was part of that project when they put your gas line in. I'm the business manager for the union. So you had McHugh, you had union contractors there, and they did a phenomenal job.
Right.
Clean, neat, tidy, they secured everything.
It was
Well,
all
these-
required there.
Well, when
Yeah.
these kind of things
Mhm.
get built, and I've been part of it for
Mhm.
30 years. These things get built, they go to the lowest bid, they go
Mm-hmm.
to the cheapest construction, and it's fly-by-night guys that just don't care. And, it's not a union, there's no project coordinator
Mhm.
there. There's no GC there, general contractor that's overseeing all this. It's just all right, you guys are doing the brick, you guys are doing the concrete, you guys are doing the rough, and it's usually the cheapest bid. I'm weary of that.
I got
kind
it.
of
Yeah, no.
Fly by night.
Well, and to be fair, I think our first meeting, we showed renderings of what we thought it was gonna look like, and they asked who the team was. We were down in the basement of the church, and that was the question, is who's your contractor? I told them the queue and all of that, so again, I can only speak for the process we went through, but transparency and communication were critical along the way. So, I mean, that's what we had to go through, so I think that demonstrates the process is pretty thorough. I mean, as neighbors, did you feel like you had visibility into what was gonna be going on with the Remova development before it happened, or?
The construction?
Right,
Yeah, I think it was pretty smooth.
yeah, I remember speaking with both of you at the first meeting.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not just people talking, saying things that sound good, really, it's gonna be almost to the detriment of the developer. Very rigorous process based on what the board's established.
And thank you for raising it, because I think that it's a fair question, right? Because also, you know, there was TIF money involved, there were requirements around that. And like you said, I mean, and you pay a premium for the better quality work at the end of the day. You know, you have professionally trained people who are on top of everything, project managers. It's not something that I've done here in the ward yet. I mean, I think, you know, I've been also just sort of trying to understand like what the threshold is of where that's something that's a reasonable ask for, depending on the size of the project, right? I mean, if you're building on a 25 by 125 lot, it's a little hard for me to require you to use union. I don't know that that becomes cost prohibitive
Sure.
to folks, but we are in a TIF district here too. You know, the 35th and Halsted TIF, you know, runs through this exact area. But I think it's a great point, and I want to assure you that, you guys will keep me accountable, because we'll always have meetings about these things, to make sure that we're raising the right issues. Amanda, I'm sorry, I missed your question earlier. I'm just looking in the chat. Are there interested parties or any possible plans for these addresses? Not currently. This is something that we're just trying to do on a proactive basis. I partnered with Alderwoman Julia Ramirez in the 12th Ward. You know, she's got one side of 35th Street, I've got the other. As we go west, past the river there, past Ashland. So all of those storefronts over there, they were zoned RS3. If you can imagine, I mean, there's a lot over there, very similar to here, but an even bigger area. And in order to, you know, encourage more business development over there, we went through an exercise too. It was a much bigger stretch. So we held several community meetings about that as well, to make sure that people understood. And there's some single family homes on 35th Street that, like, we prefer not to be included. No problem. Again, it was meant to help people, not hurt people. So as people are considering this, you know, if there are folks that, you know, would prefer not to be included in the map amendment, I have a little less of a problem with that, but I'm mindful of the things that are zone manufacturing at this point. You know, I believe that most of the residents in the area would prefer, if we're gonna see things change, that it be business or residential, and less manufacturing. I get plenty of complaints about truck traffic for those that are sort of right in that corridor on the way to the stockyards and everything. Because there's still some pretty busy businesses down there that I don't necessarily think are going anywhere, but when they do decide to leave, like Chipetti's is done, right? And I don't know what sort of offers they've had on that place at this point. I certainly don't want to hurt their chances either, but I have the opportunity to sort of create an area that's more conducive to just businesses that we'd like to see here. I'd like to take the opportunity to do it. Any other?
Alderwoman Lee, just a question for me to maybe to play this out a little bit more. So say this is all approved and you rezone, and someone would want to go and develop showers or just one of those single plots of land. What would the process be like and what visibility?
So if it was just a single plot of land and they could do it within B3-2, they wouldn't necessarily need to come and see me. They would be able to just go file their plans and do everything according to city codes, get your permits with all the reviews and everything. Obviously, I'd love to know, right? But it's not a requirement. Like, I can't. If I was managing things with a little bit more of a tight fist, I would zone everything RS3 and make every single person come in here. But who's got time for that?
Right.
It's not that I don't care, but like literally, that's why I'm more interested in creating guardrails, that creates opportunities without, sort of, and limiting the things that I think are the most extreme things.
But we're
Yeah.
talking no bars, no cannabis.
Yeah, you can have
It's
restaurant, I mean, like,
traditional,
yeah. Incidental liquor is different than a tavern, right? So if it's another Shallers, can they serve alcohol? You might want a glass, you might want a beer and a glass of wine with your dinner. Different than an actual tavern,
Right.
right? So the only tavern we have on this side of 35th Street is the Electric Funeral, because yours is a public place of amusement for, I won't even get into that, but
I still
Yeah,
understand it.
yeah.
So,
So next actions for us, we will get answers to that. That's something I'll definitely take a look at. And again, if the possible height is higher than I'll be comfortable with, then we'll figure out a way. Maybe that becomes a B3-1 instead.
So next steps would be them to come to you with plans
Yeah.
and say, this is what we're planning here. Are you planning on having another meeting with us to see what these plans look like?
Oh, no, nobody's got plans for anything right
When
now.
they do come.
Oh, when they do come, yeah. So what I want to do is I don't want to make the big empty plots of land. I don't want to allow it to be bigger than what I'm comfortable with without having to come in and see me to talk about it. And I think generally anybody building that much would still come in and would want, this sort of, engagement with the office. But the idea being like, maybe it is just better to leave that as a B1-1. I don't know. Like, so when you raise the issue and that's what this meeting is
Thank you.
for.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've got my word. I'm not gonna allow anything on its own to be taller than what's already in the area. There won't be any towering buildings anywhere.
That's good to hear. Yes.
Yes, it-
Because one day daily insurance is gonna be gone. What's gonna be there, We're residents right on Halsted.
Mhm.
We don't wanna have to leave,
Mm-hmm.
but we would like to have some input in what happens business wise.
Yeah.
We want the quality of life and, to continue or to be
Mhm.
better, actually. And we want some standards for the
Sure.
community to be enforced.
Yeah.
And if they put a 5-story building next to us, that'll shade us and.
That's right there. I mean, like to me, like if I'm here, if I'm still in the seat when and if that time comes, it's certainly not, it's about fitting into the character of everything, right? So, the corners are really the only place that I would even think would be okay to go higher, because you've got the condo building across the street already. Where that Solo Eye Care is, that condo building is, how many stories is that? 6? No, it's higher than that. It's higher than 4. Yeah, I think it's higher than
I
4.
think our limit,
I don't know that. We'll double check.
because there's a few 4-story.
Mm-hmm. Can we look at the condo building? It's got a zoning map on.
Oh,
Where are you?
I'm looking at daily insurance. I mean, that's,
I think the Dave will hold on to that. Talk to Commissioner Dave's, I think.
Do 3500 South Halsted. I'm just gonna take a look because I want to see what they're zoned as. I'm so trying, that's Remova right there, so.
Mhm.
Can you go to a Google map? Yeah, but go to a Google map.
that's a massive lot. Look at that. It's the floor area should be
Oh.
about 2.2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's higher than 4 stories.
Yeah.
Independent.
Sure.
Can you go to the pictures?
Yeah, I mean, like we've got tangible, but maybe they need a bigger space, I mean,
So that condo building, so on top of the commercial, it's 1, 2, 3, it's 4 residential floors above it. So it's actually 5 stories. Yeah. And that's a huge lot and the floor, this is where the floor area ratio makes a difference. So I think this begins to answer, so that's B3-3. So -2 would be smaller than that. But again, I'm gonna double check so I can give you a straight answer on the whole length of the property that's over here. Yeah, so follow up from this, like, nothing's gonna happen yet. I'm gonna come back to you with answers to this. I'm gonna leave this video out there for people to watch. If other people have questions about this, I won't make any decisions on this in this next, until probably March at this point, because the next council meeting's not till February 19th. I want to give people ample time. Again, I'm not in a rush to do this, but I think it's something that would help here. And I would like to get it done, considering all of any issues that, and any other issues that are raised or concerns that you might have when you talk to your family and your partners about your property.
Because this would potentially affect showers, the
Yeah.
vacant building to the south, that the old.
Yeah, this goes all the way down, so, actually, this doesn't, it does, it goes just to 3728 is the furthest south point, so we're 3659, where we're sitting right now. So basically, you know how the streets are weird over here?
Yeah.
So it's like on one side, on the even side, it's to the 28, and on this side, it's to 3707.
There's a garage where they work on cars, in 37 place. Right at the corner, you got a lot. in front,
On our side,
across
across the street.
Yeah,
I'll double check.
wonder if there's part of it. I mean,
We just have to look at the address. I don't know how far 3728 is. Right now, the way that we have it written, it would include 3728. Be on the other side of the street. Let me see if I can answer that for you right now. Will you share your screen? And then we've got to wrap up because the next meeting's at 6:30.
I want to talk to you about like what we would like to do. What would be the best way to contact you?
Just pop in here, call the main office here, ask for Sharon, just get on my schedule.
Okay.
Yep. I was gonna crack a joke, but it's not funny. Gonna buy a lottery ticket? No, not at all. Yeah. Generally I have, I can make appointments for people on board night. Monday nights I stay open late. But I think if it's gonna be more than like a 20-minute conversation, we should probably just set up a time and have you come in.
And how about if you want to double check your zone, like?
Oh, I can look that up for you. That's no problem. Yeah. Oh, there it is. If you just
Let me
Google,
just send it.
yeah. Yeah. But if you just Google search Chicago zoning map, it'll take you to the Chicago online zoning map, and you could just punch in your address and it'll take you right there. Yeah. Yeah, and I think sometimes people don't keep track of that, and like a lot of folks that have been down zoned, they've like, I had no idea I was down zoned. Pretty sure you would have gotten a notification, but
That's a bummer.
that yeah. I mean, if you're walking around thinking you're C1-1 or whatever, and then all of a sudden you see you're residential, I mean, like, and I've had that happen many times sitting here. If you're the property owner, you feel some sort of way about that. For sure.
And you said B2-3, you don't have to have a business on the first floor?
No,
Three.
B3 is where you can have ground floor residential. That's why I've got the 3 in there.
So you could have all like apartments if you want.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, because there's along 35th Street where I was just talking about where we connect to the 12th Ward. There's a lot of commercial spaces there, but when everything was down zone, they made ground floor apartments. So I wouldn't want to take away the option of the owner if they wanted to do ground floor residential, because that's still, residential's great, right? Neighbors, but you'd have the option to, if your building was built such that it was always intended to be some sort of mixed use, like commercial and residential on top, that you've got more options. You're still sharing your screen here.
Oops.
We can read all of Zoe's email.
No.
She hates people staring at her. It's even worse when it's unshare.
Oh, Lord.
I can't do anything for you. There's the zoning map right there. So more to come. I will reach out to you. I've got your number here. When we figure that out, I'm happy to host another one of these just to circle back with everybody. Maybe more people will come in. And I would like to get this done sooner than later, but this certainly doesn't need to be done for February. Like I'm cognizant of the weather and everything and people just coming back from the holidays. So if you have neighbors that, couldn't make it tonight and if they still have concerns, please, like I'm always open to it. Again, I never want people to think that, I'm doing things without talking to folks. I will say some of the other map amendments, we made, came with no dispute at all or nobody raised a hand about any. I've done it in 2 or 3 different places now. Along 31st Street, across the street from Bridgeport Coffee, that corner over there was all residential, but it is actually commercial. So we upzone that to like a B district. I've done nothing more than a B. I think the only place that I would even consider doing a map amendment around C's would be Chinatown. I mean, that's all commercial there. There's really no residential along the business corridors. I mean, there's existing apartments already in some of those buildings, but that's the only place where that would make sense. And there's really not that much available land anymore over there anyway. Yeah. And again, if you guys have questions after this, please feel free to reach out. Zoe, you can ask for Zoe. She works on all of our zoning stuff. And then for appointments, just call the office, ask for Sharon Arrigo. She's got my schedule. We'll get you in as quickly as possible. I'm happy to sit down with you guys. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for joining us online and from the warmth of your homes. You're very smart. You guys have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.